Joining us is former United States Attorney General and U.S. Senate candidate Jeff Sessions. Jeff, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Paige. Good to be with you. Good to be talking to Dothan land, following the scripture. Let us go on to Dothan. I love that.
There you go. Well, first, you recently published a letter regarding your recusal from the Russia inquiry. What do you want people to take away from that letter?
Well, we just wanted to set the record straight that under the regulations of the Department of Justice, I had been involved in the Trump campaign. I had an official title in the Trump campaign, chairman of the National Security Committee. I think may have been one of the few public officials that did. I also was a witness on what their investigation was, and I also was being investigated too as being connected to some Russians. So that was the reason I could not investigate myself. The regulation is explicit, and of course, fundamental practice for prosecutors is not to supervise and manage an investigation of which they are a part.
President Trump has endorsed your opponent. Why do you believe he's endorsed Tommy Tuberville?
Well, we had a disagreement over that recusal. He felt strongly about it. I felt like I had to do the right thing. It's not, I believe that was the right thing. I was compelled by the law to do so. I think it would have been damaging to my ability to lead the department if everybody there knew that I was violating the plain rule of the department. Secondly, I think it would have been very problematic for the president to try to proceed in that fashion. So to me, I felt comfortable and confident that this was the only thing I could do. It was the right thing to do. You know, I don't think my opponent says that's weakness, but I really believe that your duty is to do the right thing. It's not weak to do the right thing, even if people criticize you. I've tried to do that throughout my career. I believe in law and doing what the rules require you. It wasn't a bad rule. In fact, indeed, you shouldn't supervise an investigation that could involve yourself. So it wasn't anything wrong with the rule. In fact, it was an important rule.
Okay, let's switch gears here a little bit and talk about COVID-19. Who is to blame, in your opinion, for this pandemic, and how has President Trump handled it, in your opinion?
Well, I think we have to put great emphasis on China. I think they are to blame. We know they knew as early December that this virus was contagious, yet they denied it for 7 weeks until January 20th. So they refused to tell the world we were dealing with a dangerous pandemic. They hid it from the world. One study in England said that if we'd known 3 weeks earlier, not 7, and people had acted, 95% of this virus would never have happened, or at least 95% of the infections would not have happened. Imagine that. So they behaved extraordinarily bad. You know, a lot of people say the United States has more deaths than any other country in the world. Well, that's probably so, at least if you assume these countries are telling the truth, and I don't always assume that. But let me just say this, in the other developed nations in the world, Belgium has 3 times as many deaths per capita as the United States. 10 European developed nations have higher death rates than the United States. So we're not alone in this. I mean, we're doing better than a lot of the other developed nations where people fly around the world all the time and they communicate and do those kind of things, unlike some countries. So I think the president is doing well. He's working hard. He's answered every question 10 times. He's pushed as he is able to do to get this bureaucracy moving as rapidly as possible. So I think we're doing pretty well. It's just a dangerous pandemic. It's just not going to go away easily. And I don't know how we'll be able to continue to live with it, but we will, and we'll get better as time goes by.
Finally, Jeff, why do you want to return to the U.S. Senate?
I believe that at this point in time, I have the gifts and the knowledge and on some of the great issues of our time, that we can make advances that might not be here much longer. I believe President Trump will be reelected. As you know, I was advocating for the things he campaigned on before he campaigned. Continue to be a strong advocate for ending illegality at the border, building that wall. I'm a strong advocate for protecting American industry against unfair competition. I'm a strong advocate for defending ourselves against unfair tactics from China. I believe that we need to protect religious liberty. We continue to appoint great federal judges who follow the law, not make law. And those are things that he's advancing. I think I can help him in so many ways to advance that agenda that we share. We had one disagreement, no doubt about it, but otherwise we've been allies on issue after issue. It would be my honor to be able to continue to represent Alabama, to fight for those values, because, gosh, we don't need to miss this window. We don't need to send somebody to Washington and is oblivious to what these things are all about, knows nothing about it, has not shown in his life any commitment to those values. He didn't give a dime to Donald Trump. He didn't say a nice word to Donald Trump about Donald Trump. Didn't endorse him when that campaign was a monumental war that I was giving every waking moment to for almost an entire year. Where was he? So I would just say to the voters of Alabama, I love you. I appreciate the honor of representing this state more than you can imagine. If you give me the opportunity to return, I will once again give my absolute best to be worthy of the great trust that you would have placed in me and to advance the values that we share.
Former Attorney General and U.S. Senate candidate Jeff Sessions, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.